You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Hey listeners, let me let you in on a little secret. You don't have to stress about planning your class lessons, small groups, and individual sessions anymore. My school counseling membership program, Impact, is here to help. So, what do Impact members get? Monthly curriculum plans across all 3 tiers, SEL lessons, small groups, individual, and seasonal activities, step-by-step video implementation guides, bi-weekly Zoom coaching calls with me, and an exclusive Facebook group community. This membership is designed for school counselors who want to deliver the best possible content to their students, but who also want to just press the easy button. You'll get access to monthly curriculum plans, resources, support, and community so you can deliver quality, engaging, life-changing counseling lessons to your kiddos. So what do you think? Are you ready to make an impact? Join today at stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact. Hey y'all, thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. So last week I was talking to you guys about scheduling. I hope you're implementing a few of those strategies that we talked about and that your schedule is already, making you sigh relief instead of clenching with stress. Today I want to talk to you about organization. So again, I sourced these topics based on your feedback, based on your counseling goals. And I had one that someone said their goal was to run at least 5 counseling groups this spring semester. So that is a wonderful goal, totally doable, but I wanted to share a few organization strategies when it comes to small groups specifically that will make your counseling life just a little bit easier and will make managing and running those 5 groups more simple. So first up, I want to talk to you about how to create a caseload spreadsheet so you can organize your group members. So it's basically a list of all the individual and small group students you're going to see so you can keep track of everyone. And it's where you can keep information like who their teacher is, their area of need, if you've contacted their parent, etc. in one simple spreadsheet. So I have a training that I did on this similar to last week. I've already taught and did like a deep dive on the counseling caseload spreadsheet. So I'm going to play that training first so you can listen and you can hear exactly all the details so you can make your own. Or if you're feeling, kind of lazy, or not lazy, just like overwhelmed and you're like, I don't want to make my own. Do you have a template? I do. So I have a template for you that you can just download and plug in the numbers. But I'll share the DIY, details so you can make your own or you can snag the template. So I'll play that, and then afterwards I'll share with you 2 other, secrets and practical solutions for how you can organize your small groups. Okay, let's check it out. So here is an example of a counseling caseload. So I use Google Sheets. I love using Google Sheets. You could also use an Excel sheet. I believe my first one that I created, I did an Excel sheet, but then I realized that I love the fact that Google Sheets, you can't really lose them. They're like in the cloud and you can, share them, access them across different devices. So it makes it way better, especially if something happens to your computer or, if you have a school computer and a personal computer and you're trying to access back and forth. But a counseling caseload is basically students who are on your weekly schedule. So I want you to think about your small groups and your individual students. So if you look at the spreadsheet here, it's going to do a few things. It's going to share some information about these kids, some identifying information, and then it's going to share kind of a checklist, order of events per se. So for example, I have Britney Spears. Free Britney is the first one, and then her name, teacher name, grade level, area of need. So area of need is going to be the topic that you're seeing them for in counseling. And then the counseling type. So this is where you're going to specify if they are individual or group. Now you may notice I have some colors here, and that's because I like to color code my groups. So as students are being, referred to or added to your caseload, you're going to write their name here. So that's why some of the colors are separated. So for example, this growing minds growth mindset group, let's say I got these 3 referrals and I decided to make a group. Well, then a couple weeks later, someone, gets referred or a new student comes and they're going to be a good fit. That's why their name is down here. It's not right in order, but you don't need to readjust your whole spreadsheet, just color coordinate them. So at a glance, you can see, oh, look, I have 4 students in that growth mindset group. Or I have 3 students in that blooming friendships group. And then the next one is if they've received a referral. So who you received the referral from. So you're seeing them for a reason. Is that because their parent recommended them, the principal, maybe they self-referred, maybe their teacher recommended them? I like to make a note of that. Also, I forgot to mention with the counseling type, if sometimes you'll see students, so for example, I have Ariana Grande here at the bottom. Sometimes you'll see students individually and in a group. I've definitely done that before. So I do have her name on here twice so I can keep her with the group, but then also individually as well. Because as you can see, I'm seeing her for 2 different topics. But I did indicate this with a star, an asterisk beside her name. That way, if I'm going back later and I'm trying to count, collect some data and count the number of services I've provided or the number of students served, I won't double count her, if that makes sense. And then I have here, if I've contacted the parent. So I always like to let the parent know, hey, services are about to start. Here's the permission slip. So that goes on to the next one, send a permission slip. And then the next one is received a permission slip. Off screen here, it got cut off, but there's a couple more columns I include. One is to chat with the teacher about the ideal time. So you want to make sure that you're finding a time to schedule them. And then finally, if you've actually scheduled the session. So that's kind of your checklist that you're going through. So I love keeping this on my computer. So at any point, I know I have a status update on the student. So if the principal's like, hey, are you seeing so-and-so? I'm like, oh, yeah, we've already contacted the parent. We're just waiting to get that permission slip back. Or I've got the permission slip back. We're waiting to hear back from the teacher to schedule sessions. This way, students don't fall through the cracks, because so often you'll get stuck in one of these points. You may have received the permission slip and reached out to the teacher, but then you get busy with something else. The teacher didn't get back to you, and you're thinking, oh no, I'm waiting to hear back from this teacher. I never scheduled them, and they just slipped through the cracks. The group's already started, and that kiddo didn't get in it in time. So that's the purpose of this caseload, is to say, stay super organized, because I used to have a manila folder, right by my desk. I would throw all the permission slips in there, but they weren't even alphabetized, or they weren't even in the order I received them. And so it gets very tricky. So you could even get fancier than this. I mean, you could insert images under the permission slip, or like a link to a file of a Google Drive, so you could scan these, or if you have a digital permission slip, that way you can access it right there. You could keep it all digital, all streamlined. And instead of these yeses, if you see in the top right here, I've done a checkbox. So you can always do, insert checkbox instead of typing yes or no. You could do checkboxes. So a few different options for you there. Okay, guys, I hope you found that helpful and learning all the ins and outs and details of how to create your own caseload spreadsheet. Like I said, if you would rather have a template, you can simply plug in. I have a resource for that we'll link to in the show notes. Now, the second thing that I want to share with you is a strategy on how you can use folders to organize your groups. So I love a good old-fashioned manila folder. A funny story, I don't know if I've shared this on the podcast or not, maybe, but for the longest time, I want to say up until my first counseling job, definitely up until grad school, I thought they were called vanilla folders instead of manila folders. Same thing with like Nilla wafers. They're just Nilla wafers, not vanilla. I don't know. I got all confused. And then I'm curious, does anyone know why they're called manila folders? I didn't know if it had to do with Manila, Philippines, capital city. Been there, didn't have a folder. But anyways, so back to what I'm saying. I love a good old-fashioned manila folder system. So basically what I do here, and you might be surprised because I'm always talking about digital things, but sometimes you just want a hard copy. But what I do is I have one group folder, and that's where I keep the group rules, student sign-in sheets, the feelings check poster, and then any activities that we're going to do, maybe like some games that we're going to do, or discussion cards that we're going to do, our outlines for the group. Everything like that is in the folders, in the group folder, and I'll have the group name on it. So for example, Blooming Friendships. Then each student also has their own folder. Now, in their folder, this is where they're keeping all of their worksheets, activities, crafts, and journals. So all of the group members have a folder with their name on it. I let them write their name. And then I also give them stickers. After each session, they get a sticker, and they can stick them on their folder as like a progress tracker, so they can anticipate how many sessions are remaining and just to be proud of the ones that they've attended. It also kind of serves, this wasn't my intention, but it was kind of a double whammy in a good way. It serves as an attendance booster and an attendance incentive, right? attendance incentive because, students are like, oh, why does she have 5 stickers and I only have 4 stickers? And we're like, oh, well, you missed last week. We really missed you. We would have loved to have you in group. And then they have all their materials in their folder. You keep these in your office until the end, and at the conclusion of the group, you send it home with them and they can share their parents what they've been working on in counseling, or share with their teacher what they've been working on in counseling. So what does that do? Well, it helps you advocate for your role, right? You're kind of saying, they're like, oh, that's what you've been doing with that lady. So I'm always trying to give you little sneaky ways to sneak in the importance of your role and how you can clarify your role as the school counselor. So that's my folder system. So, first up is that caseload spreadsheet. Get all your group kiddos organized there digitally so you know what's up. Second is the folder system. This is how you can actually organize the physical materials. Now, if you're meeting virtually and you don't have any physical materials, you could do the same thing in Google Drive. So I've had a Google Drive group folder, and then within it is each individual student folder, and then you can share the folder with the students as well. The last tip I have for you when it comes to organization and your small groups is knowing your strengths and style. So know yourself and what you like and what you don't like. So if you're someone who likes to batch, print, and prep at the beginning of the semester, then you can print all of your group materials and organize them into binders by session. So I thought I was this person, and I, printed everything, got these cute binders, and my goal was to have like the group name on the binder and to have them all lined up on a bookshelf, like a curriculum library, which sounded great, but in reality, it didn't really work out for me because I'm a little more of a, last minute grab and go gal. So what I do is I like it digital. So like I said, you can have a Google Drive folder with all your group materials, and then you can quickly access and print them, the morning of your session. So that morning, okay, I'm seeing these 3 groups today. I'm going to go print their sign-in sheets and print the activities we're doing today. But if you have everything named, you want to be digitally organized as well. So you want to make sure everything's named in a, sensical fashion so you can easily access materials. And you're thinking, okay, this stuff sounds good, but it's going to take a little effort. So why? Why are we doing this? Well, if you get organized and you're organizing your small groups, this allows you to spend less time planning and prepping and more time counseling kiddos. And that's our passion in the heart of it and why we're in it, right? To counsel the kiddos and to help as many students as possible. So getting organized allows you to do that. Okay, I hope you found this super helpful. I have a freebie for you. So it's the same freebie that I mentioned last week. It has 3 components: scheduling, organization, and data collection. So if you didn't snag it yet, please make sure you do, because there's an organization toolkit in there that I think you're going to find very helpful with some visuals. That's why the freebie's nice, because in the auditory format here, sometimes it's tricky to explain exactly what things look like. So I think you'll find that organization freebie helpful. We'll link to it in the show notes, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.